Oh Polly, it's for your sake alone. I left my dear old father, my country and my home. I left my dear old mother to weep and to mourn. I am a rebel soldier and far from my home. It's grape shot and musket and the cannon lumber loud. There's many a mangled body, the blanket for their shroud. There's many a mangled body left on the fields alone. I am a rebel soldier and far from my home.
Okay, so I'm a rebel soldier far from my home, and I think anybody that feels out of place in this world can probably relate to that. I tell my wife that sometimes. I just really feel kind of out of place in this world. It's quite a place, and a lot of parts of it I don't like. A lot of great people, but man, there's a lot of evil people too. Thanks so much for joining us here on the broadcast. I'm your host, James White. This is Critical Disclosure Radio. We are, today is another attempt here. It sounds way better. The audio sounds way better. I made some changes, some things from yesterday till today, and I'm optimistic that this broadcast is going to go through way better than yesterday. We appreciate you joining us here today on this 30th day of December 2020. I'm here with Mark and Terri Steman. Once again, they're going to be joining us here just in a moment, and we're going to be going over again some of the open criminality that has been perpetrated against them here in the state of Kentucky, and it's just not there. It's all across the world, really, and certainly in the United States through the Child Protective Services and family court systems. And that's some of the stuff we're going to cover today, as we do here on this program often. So if you're not familiar with their story, you can go back and look at the previous video interviews that we've done together. I believe if you go on my YouTube channel and you look under the playlists, you'll see the Forgotten American playlist there, where we have done numerous shows and numerous broadcasts. I want to say 8 or 10 maybe. Anyway, check that out. And without further delay, we're going to bring Mark and Terri Steman on the line with us, and let me take them off mute and welcome them officially to the broadcast. Thanks so much for being here today with us. We appreciate you being back on again. Sounds like we're having much better success today than we did yesterday, which is great.
Want to say hello?
Yeah, hi Jim. Thanks for having us back. We really appreciate it. Glad it's working.
Well, you're quite welcome. Yeah, everything. You can hear me okay. I can hear you okay. We're good to go. Excellent. Okay, so as I just stated here, we've covered a lot of the aspects of your case. I know there's a lot more. I know you have just a voluminous amount of research. I know you have a copious amount of documentation. You've meticulously registered all of these different handwriting samples and how these are supposed to be coming from different people, but a lot of the letters look the same, and we went over that, and it's undisputable evidence as far as I'm concerned. Some of the things that you've shown, we're going to dig into that stuff and more deeper today, and really basically, as we always do, I've got all the slides and everything ready to go, and as soon as you're ready, we'll just if you want to make an opening statement, certainly your comment, of course, you're open and willing to do that, or I should say, you're certainly welcome to do that. So if you want to do that, we can do that. If you want to go right to the slides, we can do that as well. But I'll turn it over to you guys. Thanks so much for being here.
Okay. Hello, James, and everyone in your fine audience. We are grateful to be back with you again. We appreciate Jim providing a backup for us. We attempted to get on yesterday, and so far it looks like, aside from the problems we had yesterday, that we've been able to work through those. And so, it's really important that the American people grasp what we're bringing forth and provide to them, because so much of what we've seen happening in the CPS and family court system, the fraud, the outright lying, the theft of our children, the deprivation of our rights, and what we see it happening on such a grand scale, Jim, that we talk about the corruption, and I know we've talked about this before, but it really does rise to the level of a seditious operation. And when it unfolds like a script, you can tie it back to maybe the starting point, then it's very important that people look at maybe the nucleus of all this and become informed and tell their neighbors to demand action from people that we have entrusted with our power in our system of government, which kind of what brings us to this point, because we've done all of that. We went, we did the investigation. We provided this to all of our justice channels. We attempted to work it through all of our avenues of our system and our quest for justice and even for remedy. And yet we have been denied and ignored all along the way, just like so many other Americans. And, we are one of many forgotten Americans and who are continue to be ignored. President Trump said during his last inauguration in 2017 that he was giving power back to the people, and we still trust in those words. We think that the extent of the infiltration and the threat to our country is so great, the swamp is so big and so deep, and so much control of so many areas of our lives that it really does have to be brought before the people. And we think that this is good that people are seeing what's happening in the election with the voter fraud and the election fraud, but the timing of us coming forth and what other people have tried to do in the past, and it's really sad that so many other people have tried to raise their voices and bring forth information, but they have been disregarded under the lying narrative that, oh, well, you must have done something wrong, or this is really in the best interest for your children, when really it is not. Children belong to their parents. We know that there are hundreds of thousands of children, some of them go missing, who are being ripped away from loving parents and good family, good extended family. They are not being placed with them. So this is a real threat to our republic. The very things, Jim, that we, veterans, we take oaths to support and defend and uphold, we all take very seriously. And, like you said at one point, I think, here it is happening within our own country. And so, it's on us, America, that we become informed, we see the picture, and that we work together to stop it. And so this is just another segment that Jim has graciously allowed us an opportunity to share with you more of what we've discovered. And I know I mentioned in the last interview that, this would be a pretty big piece of evidence, and there's a lot of details to this, and we're only touching upon a lot of the key points in this disclosure, because there's so much that we've uncovered that it would take, a whole lot of time to put this forth. And so we're just hoping that people would get the big pieces and then, rise up, join together, raise their voices to do something, to demand action, so that we can stop it. And because it is not American, and it is hurting us and our children. So yesterday when we attempted to get on, and it was a special day for us, as many parents and their children, they have special days throughout the year that they all celebrate, from holidays, other special occasions, family gatherings, just going out and doing things with your kids, like camp outs or maybe recreational activities that we're all being denied, and we haven't been charged or convicted of a crime, and yet the very treasures that we've been given by our Creator, and we believe in a Creator, we are people of faith, are being denied to us by people who are acting like God in our life, and they don't have a place to act this way. And so yesterday when we attempted to get on, we had a special day for one of our children, our number 6, and up until the time that we came out in the public arena, Jim, we really didn't have an opportunity to share our heart with our children, like so many other parents want to when they're going through these just utter travesties. But we wanted, if we can go ahead and start the slides there, Jim, we'll go to the first one, and we'll just take a minute. Jim has allowed us to do this, but yesterday was a very special day for our number 6, our son, Bo David, and we celebrate his life. We want him to know that we appreciate him and we love him, and that, so you can go ahead and start the slides, Jim. We'll just bring up the first one there, and then we'll just go ahead and move on from there. But this is a picture of one of our 7. He's our number 6. It was a beautiful day for us. My hands were the first things that he felt on his little body. And the second thing that he felt is what you see me wearing today. And I hope that now that he's entered into double digits, he's now 11, that he will know that his mommy and daddy love him very much. He did tell his mother in one of our last visits with him that he would never forget his mommy. And I know he meant his daddy too. And we want him to know that we would never forget him, and that we hope that he will be united with us again soon, that justice will prevail, and that the liars and the deceivers and the criminals will be held accountable. And so thank you, Jim, for letting us share that. And we want to make mention that all of our friends and even, many Americans and others around the world who are going through this or being denied the joys of these moments with their children, that we have thought about you along the way when we mark these days with our children. And we have thought of our children on all their other days just as well. And we have them in our hearts, and we love them very much. And our hearts go out to other American families and other families around the world who are having their children stolen. And just want you to know that we also think of you and being denied these very joys in your life. And so as we move on to the next slide, Jim, I think one of the topics of your interview for us today is the Kentucky family court system, a national model. We have mentioned this several times in previous interviews. Because what we see happening, as we've stated, is that things are unfolding like a script across the country. And, so where did all this start? Where did it begin where we can run into a court system and be denied our rights, have our children taken, be subject to involuntary servitude, have services forced upon us, and then watch our children be put in the hands of foster care, families, complete strangers, or even adopted out. So if you zoom in on that, this was a screenshot that we took from the court website back in 2018, one day prior to meeting with U.S. attorneys that we had mentioned before. And you can see there that it says that the Jefferson County family court system, it began as a pilot project back in the early 90s. So there was a pilot program. It was the first court in the state to focus on the needs of families. And, the attempt was to establish a unique solution to allow one judge to provide continuity by hearing all of a family's legal problems and issues. And when you look at that, you might think, oh, well, that kind of sounds okay, one judge, but is that really American? Because, the way that I understand our system that we've established in our state and federal constitutions is that's really not government by the people. And that's why we have jury trials. And so, just that kind of lent itself to the beginning of the establishment of some sort of a tyranny over the people, to where you have just, one person rule. And then you kind of see it kind of grow. It grew beyond that from the Louisville, Jefferson County area. And then in 2002, it was voted, and I want to put that in quotes, as an amendment with 75% of the vote. And from that point, I guess it kind of went out across, across the country. But when you look at the operation of it, of the things that we're disclosing, and the deprivations of so many things, kind of points everything back to here. And so, with the information that we're bringing forth, it kind of should raise some questions, hopefully, in the minds of many Americans, that what you may be seeing in your CPS and family court systems could be driven by what we're seeing and bringing forth that we've discovered is happening in the Jefferson County family court system.
So, right on. Listen, here's the thing they do. I've talked to people in Maine, right? I've talked to people in Montana. I've talked to people in Colorado, California, Nevada, out east. It doesn't matter. A lot of times it's the very same program. They run the same script and the same program on these parents. And yeah, you're right. This is the model. This is the model that goes across the country. You know why? Because it works. That's why. It works. They get a lot of kids, 425,000 children a year, roughly, by doing it this way. So they're going to keep doing it until we stop them. You want to go on to the next slide?
Yeah, I only add, and then you were talking about getting a lot of kids. Well, along with that, there's a tremendous amount of money, billions and billions of dollars. So when we look at the growing national debt across the country, and this is something a lot of people may not really even think about, but when you talk about the insolvency of the Social Security Trust Fund, and whether there's going to be any retirement funds for us when we get to that point, and how much the national debt has been growing over the years, is there a correlation to the amount of kids being taken, the amount of money that's being funneled out to who knows where it's going? So it is pretty significant when you look at the billions and billions of dollars there with the kids. So what we want to bring forth today, Jim, is I mentioned in the last interview that we would take a look at the April 6, 2016 documents again. And I'm going to show 3 different sets today, which is going to kind of show more of the correlation and maybe the pre-planned event of what they do in scheming to target families. We think that there's pretty clear evidence of nefarious activity going on here. But so you just want to bring up the first slide. I'll kind of go through these pretty quick. We're not going to spend a lot of time because people have seen these before. But this, if you look at this document was page 1 of a 4-page document that we received over email. We received this as an attachment when Terri was making an inquiry in respect to our daughter Amy when she was hospitalized, and they said, well, we can't give you that information anymore, and because of this court order. And so there's a stamp, and we looked at that at the bottom, So I just want to show that these 4 documents, just scroll up a little bit there, Jim. I just want people to take note of that stamp, that stamp down there supposedly came from the medical provider as part of the attachment. And if you note on these lines all appear pretty dark. The print here is nice and dark, and then go on to the next page, and we'll just rip through these real quick. But the second page has got the stamp. So this is the stuff that was sent over email through the wire. And you go on to the next page, and so there's a stamp, and then the last one we're going to take a look at here a little more closely. If you go on to the next page. So this was the actual order for temporary custody. And on this stamp, you'll see in the lower left-hand side, it appears to be a certified copy of record. And, so it's got the stamp on it. And then, so if you just go on to the next slide, I'm going to show now these 4, like I said, were transferred to us over the wire. And and where we've already seen evidence that there's images on that first page that tie back to the person that we identified in the letter N. We already looked at that all in previous interviews, so we're not going to go back to that. But where this was transferred as a fraudulent document, we've got, pretty sure this is a forged document, as it is with so many of the other ones. But this is also an additional federal crime, that if you transfer something over the wires, which email is that in order to continue a scheme to defraud, to obtain money, which they do get with the Title IV funding when they take your children, and by false or fraudulent pretenses, that also is punishable by up to 20 years in prison. So it's a federal felony to do that. And when you look at the definition in the same 18 U.S. Code, Chapter 63, Section 1346, it says that fraud is defined simply as to deprive someone of the intangible right of honest services. And we have been deprived of honest services. And the overall operation, by the evidence and the fraudulent documents, the unlawful due process of law that was denied to our daughter under the allegation, and so many other ways. And so when you look at this, and so this is just another count of the wire fraud. We talked about the mail fraud in the previous interview. So there's all kinds of fraudulent activity going on here. And one other thing I want to mention, Jim, is that United States Code at the bottom of that document we're on, just so people understand, it states very clearly at the beginning of our U.S. code that in 1 U.S.C. Chapter 3, Section 204, that codes and supplements are evidence of the laws of the United States. Okay, so our codes are our law. And this is why on basically all of our codes, you'll have a reference like PL something, which is what public law is. So it establishes the prima facie law, the laws of the United States. Now, whether or not these laws, and there are some that are questionable, ASPA being one, are constitutional, are another question, because we're highlighting that we're being denied many of our rights under the color of law, in respect to the care of our children, their reclamation, being subject to forced services that we should not have to be subject to because there's no criminal matter involved. And under the 13th Amendment, those things should not be happening in our republic. And yet, this is why our children are being held hostage to this day. This is why many parents, will not get their children back because they either refuse to comply with services, or they do, and then they fabricate things from those appointments to use against the parents to eventually adopt out the kids anyway. So very rarely do we see the children even being returned. So I just wanted to highlight that point before we move on to the next slide. And if we can just keep things rolling here. This next set is the same document in composition and by date that we just looked at, page 1, but this was retrieved from the court file. And on 11/23/2016, we went down there and we attempted to get many of these documents that helped us in the course of our investigation. Now, you will see here that there's a lot of whitewash here. It looks like, oh, well, there was a copier anomaly, that, the copier didn't work, right? Well, when in reality, if you scroll in on that, on this page, if it was a copier anomaly to where there was a fade out, how is it that the black lines show up in front of the faded out print? The only way that could happen, at least in my knowledge of this, would be if there's a template involved where the writing is actually, or the images are placed on a white paper, and then the template is placed over the top, like a layering thing, to give it the impression that that there's a copier problem or something of that sort, and then it kind of prevents someone from seeing what's actually written there. So, like, if we had never gotten those documents that we just showed a few minutes ago in email, we went into the court file and looked at this, a lot of this stuff we would not have even been able to really see. So if you go on to the next slide, I'll just continue to show how this is pretty consistent across these documents, and on to the next one. And we looked at this. Now on this slide, we made a note, and I think it was our 6th interview, of down in the lower left-hand corner, to where from the one that the set I just showed you, there was nothing at the bottom in paragraphs 3 and 4. You scroll on down to the next slide, Jim, and just at the bottom of the next slide, and we talked about this. So there was an addition being placed on this. And then if you scroll back up, Jim, and you zoom in on those lines, you can see the same effect, right? Where if you are copying something, you should see the fade out across the black lines and not just on the images of the letters behind it.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. What you're saying is, and I agree with you, if it was a copy problem, then why are all these black lines that the text is written on? How come those all seem to be clear? Those don't seem to be faded at all. Just the writing. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Something's up with that. There's no doubt about that. That's right. For sure. That's
right. So this is the second set, and then if you go on down at the bottom, you can just see even there at the date on the right-hand side, the black line goes straight across, and you have the images and the date are just really faded out or completely manipulated, and then the course stamp at the bottom. So if you go on to the next slide, this is kind of where things begin to get really suspicious. Now, people may look at this and say, well, what's this? Okay. This was a document among many documents that we received late in the process. We went to one of our court proceedings. It was handed to us when we were in the proceeding in a stack of documents. And we didn't really know, I didn't really even discover what this was right away. So in the court proceeding that we were in, when we went in prior to going into the actual courtroom, someone on there, I think it may have even been it could have been one of the prosecutors. We don't know how they may have gotten this. It was a stack of documents that they gave us in the waiting room. And we went into the courtroom and we were sitting there. So also was caught on camera. We had this big stack of documents. And we didn't discover this until after the proceeding. We went back to where we were, to our place. And we took a closer look at this. And, they were sitting, we had them off to the side and we pulled them out. We began to see, well, what is this? And what this appears to be is something that was scanned. You can kind of see there that this is a document, just like the other two of the first page of the other two sets, that has a twist to it. That kind of gives it the appearance that it was scanned, and the scanner picks up the top part of the cover on the bottom. Apparently, we don't really know who did this, how they would have gotten this. We have a hypothesis, but we presented all of this to all of the people some of the people we went to in our quest for justice, because this will become clear in what I show you in the next few minutes. But if you continue on, so you will see here that
let's take a quick break. Can we take a quick break here right now? Can we stop right now? Is this a good time? We take a quick break.
Yeah, this will be a good time to stop.
Okay, and then when we come back, I'll go back to the document we were just at, and then we'll go on to the next one. We're here with Mark and Terri Lynn Steman, Forgotten American, No Longer Ignored on Twitter. Why don't you go ahead and give out your email addresses, or not email address, but well, if you want email address, sure. But websites, that type of stuff, so people can find out more about you. You've just helped, thousands and thousands of parents yourself. You've lent support to, since I've known you, even going through the tragic situation that you're going through, you still managed to reach out and help others, which shows us a true sign of your character. Can you let us know about the websites and where people can find out more about you and the work that you guys are doing to try to expose this evil?
Yeah, Jim, thank you. So anybody who's watching that wants to help expose what's happening to families, they can reach out to us. Or if you're going through this with your own family, and we have a pretty good support group of other advocates and parents that we can get you connected with, you can reach out to me on Twitter through direct message at No Longer Ignored, or you can contact us through email at letourchildrengo@protonmail.com, letourchildrengo@protonmail.com. And then we also have an organization that we're working on building. We're just getting started with that. So right now you can go to letourchildrengo.wordpress.com, and we've got some information starting there, to where we're hoping to build it into research and support for families that are dealing with maneuvering through this system while it's still in existence. And then also for our own situation, if anybody's interested, we have a site at givesendgo.com/saving-our-family. And then, so anybody that wants to contact us for any reason, the email is probably one of the best ways to get in touch with us at letourchildrengo@protonmail.com.
Okay, we appreciate. For folks, just a recap, they had 7 of their children kidnapped by the state of Kentucky. In case you're wondering why we have them on the show so often, because it's just egregious what they've been through, and they have a lot of evidence to prove the criminality, and that's what we want to do. We want to take these criminals down across the country. That's the goal of this program. We certainly do appreciate your support. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break here, and we come back. We're going to pick this back up again with Mark and Terri Lynn Steman here on the broadcast here on Critical Disclosure. Let's take a quick commercial break. We'll be back after these brief messages. I'm your host, James White. Hi, this video is brought to you by PatriotPrepared.com, where right now you can save $250 on each large package purchase, plus get free shipping to the continental United States. In these troubled times, it's not a bad idea to have some extra food storage available, and you can save big at Patriot Prepared right now. Go to PatriotPrepared.com, that's PatriotPrepared.com, and use the code Trump250 at checkout to receive your savings today.
Have you heard of Protovite? The most common health concern today is poor digestive health. Unlike ordinary supplements, Protovite is a liquid multi-nutrient formula with patent-pending absorption technology. A published scientific study proves that Protovite is nutrition that gets in 100% of the time. Protovite uses the highest quality ingredients to rapidly nourish every cell in your body.
My name is Sandra. 6 weeks ago, when I started taking Protovite, I was on 14 medications, from everything for blood pressure to fibromyalgia. In the first 10 days, my blood sugar dropped 50 points, and my fibromyalgia pain is gone. And so was 12 of the 14 medications that I was taking.
Protovite, nutrition that gets in. Buy Protovite now.
Thank you, Protovite, for giving my life back.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Work with your doctor when taking medications. Make Protovite part of your healthy lifestyle.
Okay, folks, you can go to bloodboost.net. That's bloodboost.net to check out all the fine Protovite products. And when I show that video, what you're seeing is that's a live blood video where they do an analysis of a person's blood and the toxicity in the blood, and then they take the Protovite 5 minutes later, and you can see how it improves right there. There's a multiple tests online. You can see it's great stuff. You should check it out at bloodboost.net. That's bloodboost.net because it's always a good time to have a good immune system. No doubt about it. And all the products there on bloodboost.net do help support your immune system. So we appreciate you supporting our sponsors. If you want to support us otherwise, you can go to criticaldisclosure.com or the flagship northwestlibertynews.com. Click on the Support Independent News button there. Or you can go to GoFundMe and type in Support Truth and News, or go to Patreon and become a Patreon. And we always do appreciate your support. Or go to patriotprepared.com. And all the purchases that you make there help this broadcast. Okay, we're going to get back here with Mark and Terri Lynn Steman here on the show. Let me take them off mute here, and we will welcome them back. There you go. Mark and Terri Lynn, thanks so much for hanging out with us after the break. We really appreciate it, and do certainly appreciate you taking time to come here on the show and highlight your story. And again, it's a tragic case of as I said on the last show, 7 counts of kidnapping, and no one's gotten arrested yet. I mean, folks, if you think, well, the CPS, it's not kidnapping. Yes, it is. Oh, yes, it is. Go look up the definition of kidnapping for your state. I guarantee you. That's why they never send me cease and desist orders when I call them kidnappers, because it's true. That's why it's absolutely true. They kidnap your children without due process, and it happens today. It's happening now. As we're having this conversation, they're doing it somewhere across the country. They're illegally procuring children and going, and they end up God knows where when they finally take them. So we do appreciate Mark and Terri Lynn. It's a tough subject, folks. It's crappy. I mean, there's no other way to put it. It's terrible to talk about. It's terrible to think about. But the only way we're going to get past it, the only way we're going to root these scoundrels out, is exposing them as the criminals that they are. And this goes on in every city, every county, across every state in this country. Mark and Terri Lynn Steman, thanks so much for hanging out with us after the break. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. We just want just to kind of add to what you just said there, Jim, is that it's important that the American people understand that even though they may not have had something like this happen to them, that they are at risk of being targeted, case framed, and have their children kidnapped under the color of law, because the incentive is still there. The money, the children, the satanic ritual abuse, the cults, the adrenochrome that we know is that is going on. This is coming to the surface. People are talking about it. There's testimonies out there that have pretty good corroboration, and that it's better to be out in front of this and have a way to prevent it. And we think that and bringing forth the disclosures and breaking down the lying narrative and showing all of the fraud and the falsehoods, that it will move people to action, because it's better to have your securities and eliminate the threat than it is to be on the other side of this, because it's just a really difficult place to be. But we hope that enough of the American people will wake up, rise up, and join together to do something to stop this, because we see it happening with the election fraud, that you're being denied the power of your vote and your voice. But on the same token, this very type of thing is happening within the CPS and family court system, across the country for the money laundering, for the trafficking of kids, and for to the destruction of lives and livelihoods that should not otherwise be touched. We have a right to our protections, our securities, the pursuit of our happiness, and it's just a real atrocity that we must get beyond the lying narrative and see what's really going on. So
I'd like to just add something to that too, Jim. For people who think that, if that this isn't going to happen, or, oh, I just won't let CPS into my house, I'll just, they think that it can't happen because for whatever reason. And one of the things that we were awakened to when this happened with us is the thought that, yeah, CPS may get involved, but I'll just go to court and then the judge is going to see, and then it's going to get all cleared up. And as people are now seeing the corruption within the judiciary and judges not making necessarily the best decisions for whatever reason, whether they're compromised, blackmailed, their political affiliations, and they want to do things a certain way, so whatever that is, that if you think that this can't happen to you because, well, I just won't let CPS in. Well, when you don't let CPS in, that's when they go and they can get the court involved. And then when they come with the police with their guns, after they've got their court order from the family court judge. So if you think that it can't happen just because you're not going to let CPS in your house, or you'll go to court and it'll get cleared up, that's not necessarily going to be the case. And then for people who say, oh, well, I'll just sue them, I'll sue them. And so, what we found out through this is that the attorneys, they don't want to touch this issue. So, there's a lot of obstacles there that people may think are there for their protection if they were to get involved with this system, because they take their child to a doctor and they don't agree with something the doctor wants to do, and they aren't allowed to refuse, because then they're going to get CPS called on them. Or their kid comes home from school and the school wants to put their kid on Ritalin, and they don't want that to happen, and then they get CPS called on them. Or, for whatever reason, you let your kid out and you don't have a mask on them, and you're going to get CPS called on you for whatever reason. And so it's not just CPS. There's many tentacles to this system. And so I just want to put that out there for maybe people can
I just reported yesterday, I'm not sure if you saw it, I just reported yesterday, there's a salon owner in Oregon who is suing the state because they threatened to sick CPS. As a matter of fact, they showed up. CPS showed up at her house, and while she was away, because she wouldn't close down her salon during the unconstitutional lockdown mandate, she decided that she's going to buck the system. They sent CPS to her house to question her children. This is how they operate. And I'm going to make a prediction here on the show right now. When the voter fraud thing gets exposed and all of the stuff that Trump has as far as he's supposed to be declassifying, all this whole CPS criminality, this whole cabal's coming down with it. They're all linked in together. They're all tied in together, folks. And I've said before, it was, is, and will always be about the children. Always. That's the currency that these people trade in. You can call me crazy, you can call me conspiracy theorist, call me any name you want. I've been called them all. I'm telling you the truth. When this all comes down, you're going to see that all these same players not only are involved in laundering money, but they're also involved in the transportation and trafficking of children all across the world. Mark and Terry, did that statement I just made, do you think that resonates truthful? Does that resonate true to you?
Yes, I do, Jim, and I think that we've already showed in a previous interview the statistical support for that. How is it that you would have 96%, 97% of children taken in the state of Kentucky and they not be placed with relatives? That only 3% are placed with relatives. Where are they going? Who are they going to? And what are they doing with them? We've already documented stories on the Forgotten American app, no longer ignored, on Twitter, which mainstream media has picked up on, where children are being abused in foster care. And, so when you begin to see not just one, but, several cases, and even in Louisville, Kentucky, where even the Louisville Metro Police Department are involved and doing things with kids. And, it's just, yeah, I mean, the evidence is there. And so, this is definitely a we the people problem. So it's very important that the truth be told, that it is discussed throughout the country. And we need to have a national conversation about what we're going to do to stop this. And, I think one of the things is we have to eliminate the monetary aspect of it. Why is it that the incentive is to placing kids in foster care instead of with family? I mean, if you're really serious about, preserving family, then shouldn't there be a monetary incentive provided to keeping children with family? And that is not the case. So everything is kind of driven toward what you just stated, Jim, that it is a child trafficking, money laundering operation. There's nothing to really, to say that it isn't. And, when you're deprived your rights and children are not being reunited with their biological parents who have not been convicted of a crime by a jury of their peers, by a government of the people, then yes, those things, that is proof of those things. And so, this is why your program and other people that are picking up on it is so important, because the more people get informed, then it will give us hopefully an avenue toward stopping this problem and the great harm being done to our children. It takes years, if they ever even fully recover when they grow into adults. What kind of adults do they become? So there are a lot of things that are tied into this, but we're making a lot of progress, and we want people to be encouraged that we are going to prevail. But we need to do more in joining together and getting the word out. So just stay the course, people. I mean, be encouraged. So Jim, if we can just continue on with the documents here, I'd like to, get through.
I want to follow up real quick on what you just said. You talk about
sure.
a money laundering, kidnapping, money laundering, child trafficking operation. As I've said before on the show, I've never received one document to refute that. All I receive is documents that, like for folks like you send in, voluminous amount of them that just prove the point that it's a criminal kidnapping, money laundering cabal. I have not seen any proof to prove otherwise. I've only seen proof to substantiate that claim. Anyway, let's get back to the stuff here.
Yeah. So what we were showing before the break is that someone gave us these documents prior to entering into one of our proceedings, and it raises a question. Where did this come from? It appears to be a scan of something, or of the similar to the other ones that we had shown. So I just wanted to show that it appears that this is a manipulated document, and then it's twisted, it's kind of turned. So it's slightly rotated, and I'm going to show where that shows up in other documents. Give it the appearance like it might have been a copy or misfeed. But in the other two sets that we showed, it does not show up this way. So if you just scroll on down to the next slide, I'm just going to show page 2 of the same document. You see that's very dark. There's no, whitewash. Go on to the third page there. And, you're going to see that unlike the other one we showed where there's a big whitewash, that this is very dark. And, one other thing that I want to show on this document, if you look at the lines on the left, and people can go back in the video afterwards maybe and look at it. We're not going to thumb back here, but there's a line that goes down right along where the blocks are there at the bottom, goes all the way down. There's a couple of lines at the top. Well, if you go back and look at those other documents that I just showed you, it does not show up on those. So, it kind of raises the question that, well, how is it that this has this and the other ones don't? So if you go on to the next slide, I want to show another little anomaly. This again was in that stack of documents, and there was a whole host of other documents that we have that kind of show the fabrications, and maybe this was part of what whoever supplied us with this did. Maybe they found them somewhere, I don't know. But if you look at this document, this is the one that appears to, unlike the other ones, it has 3826 there in the middle. Now the other ones that I showed had a handwritten 4 that go over the top of that. And so when you scroll back out and you go up to the top, I want people to take a look at underneath the names where it says "in the interest of." You'll see, if you scroll in a little bit closer there, Jim, they'll see a little anomaly there on the second line right underneath Noah. And then if we go on to the next page, I'm going to show you where.
Hey, it looks like there might be some lettering at the top of this. Did you see that? It looks like this might be the top of some letters. Did you notice that right there? Like there may
Yeah,
be.
we have come across different things like that. Like there's like these things are cut and pasted in there, and like there's letters that are off to the side. I mean, we've seen stuff like that. Or even maybe that could be like, it's a part of something, but
Yeah, it's a word. It looks like it's a word. It's the top part of,
Yeah.
of a word that's
So-
that's being written.
yeah. So if you go on to the next slide, I want to show people where that line moves. If you go onto the top part there and scroll in, that line moves over to the right on this one. Okay. And then if you scroll down and if you scroll in a little bit closer, you'll see that it has that annotation there with the 4. Now the 4 is correct for where that address is, not the 3. So it appears to be an intent to deceive, and it's obviously a manipulated document. In my experience with these kind of documents, probably if you're going to make a pen and ink change, you would just initial and right next to it. It wouldn't be a whole separate document. So, that's just, and then when you look at the bottom side there on the left-hand corner, the way that the form is certified, in our experience with the certification, and if you go on to the next slide, well, I put this slide in here because this goes back to the one we got through the email from the practitioner, so they can make a comparison and see that on this one, it appears to be straight, okay, whereas the other one had a twist to it. So how is it that like this one appears to be straight, and the other one, so just one of those things. And if you go on to the next slide, I want to show where when we go, this was something that we showed previously, but we went down to the court on 11/23/16 and we got a lot of these documents out of the file. We had to pay for the certification, and it cost us $5 for each page that we had certified. So it's very expensive. And even though we were acting pro se, they wouldn't just give us these documents. We had to pay for them. So it was very expensive. And, but if you look at how the clerk certified it, he put his initials on there and then he dated it. So when you look at the other forms, it's questionable as to whether or not it's even legitimate, because it doesn't appear that if this is the correct process, that the other ones were a fabrication or at least not properly certified. So that's what I wanted to point out there.
Not only do they steer your children, falsify and forge documents from you, they now charge you $5 a page to collect those forged documents, to further extinguish any funds that you may have to be able to defend yourself. This is all part of the plan, folks. This is all part of the plan. They're trying to break these two individuals. They're trying to break them mentally. They're trying to break them physically, and they're trying to break them financially, so they don't have a will to fight back against these people or the resources to do so. This is how they operate. This goes on again, day after day after day. It's going on right now in America. You're seeing right here just a representation of parents all across the country that are being disenfranchised, and really crimes are being committed against them and their children this very, very day today.
So if we go back to where we were there, Jim, on this slide, this is just another shot of, and I want to show where that line is on the left, and then go on to the next one. And this is the one that we got in the mail. You go forward one there. But there's that line on the left across the boxes, but this is the one that we got, from in the email. But that line's not there. So if it was a copy, then shouldn't that line be there? But you can kind of see here that on this form, it's straight up and down, whereas on the previous one, it has that rotation on it. So something's happening with the form to then be sent out in a straight format. And so if you go on to the next page, I'll just show where, again, we can see this next one. That was from the medical practitioner. And then if you go on to the next slide, this was the one in the court file. And so you can see that these are straight, that there's no rotation on them. And then, I'll kind of show where.
Hold on a minute. This what you're showing me here, this qualifies for a legitimate court document that you can't even read? That's washed out? This apparently is what they put forth. They got practically all the funds that come in, half the funds that come into any county go to DPHHS, CPS, Health and Human Services, and they can't even put a proper freaking form out that's not whitewashed. They got half the money in the in the county goes to them, and they can't produce a document that is readable. Come on, for real?
It's something that we're paying for, and like I said, we said earlier, clearly that appears to be a computer generated or manipulated document to where the black lines are still showing up either in front or that is a template over the top of it. And that it's just really, it's not even a legitimate document. But this is what they're using. This is what they're putting in the court file, that if you go in your file, and then you pay money for it, right? I mean, this is what they charge you for.
And remember, this isn't a traffic ticket, folks. This isn't like, a violation where you've left your garbage on your lawn and they write you a citation. This is what they produced after they kidnapped 7 children illegally, right? This is what you get. This is what you get. You get this. You don't like it? Too bad. Sit down and shut up, or we're going to throw you in jail, which is the new thing they're doing now, is putting parents in jail to keep them quiet. But that's a whole nother episode. Nothing gets me more upset than dealing with this stuff, man. In some cases, sadly, it's even worse than just being put in jail, Jim. Yeah.
So if we go on to the next slide, I want to show people where that rotated type of a document shows up. But in one of our previous interviews, Terri talked about that as part of me being provided counsel in June of 2016, that we were given the daughter of the county prosecutor, Annie O'Connell, who now sits as a judge in the court system there. That her father, Mike, who was the prosecuting attorney and his assistants in this whole case, but they wanted to give her to me as counsel, and we could see what that was going to be about, and we eventually just came to a point where it's like, no, we'll just go pro se. So it says it right there that she was appointed, and that document says 8/1, but that's an incorrect date. It was actually 6/1. So I just want to point that out. And then if you go on to the next slide, we're going to be running out of time here in a few minutes, but this next form, in the process, Jim, in the midst of all of this, right? The color of law, kidnapping, all the deprivations, then they have taken child support money from my military pension. And this is where the process began. They inquired, well, because we were going to be relocating, I had to resign my position, and then they wanted to know what other income I had. So this was the document that we later received in the mail. But this document here that we're looking at right now, the straight up and down one, we got out of the court file when we went there on November 23rd, 2016. If you go on to the next one, you will see that document appears a little different. That's got a little bit of a twist to it, like the other documents I showed you, that it's turned a little bit. Now, this is one that we received in the mail from Annie O'Connell in July of 2016. And I'll show you some of the other documents that came along with that. If you go on to the next page, this was her cover letter, and that she sent with other documents. And prior to our first attempt at the trial on August 3rd, which was later continued until our actual trial on September 28th. But you can see down there, you better basically do what we say, or you're going to, you could face jail time. Just like, this is just crazy, right? So go on to the next page. In this envelope with that cover letter, there was some other documents. And you can see on these documents, they've got that little turn to them, that they're not straight up and down. They've got that twist. Okay, like there's part of that, it appears to be a manufactured process, like the other ones. So if you go to the next page, you'll see that this was the page that I just showed people. That was part of that. Second page of the previous one that we showed. And then if you go on to the next slide, there was a couple other ones that were included in there. And you'll just see that there's a couple comments there that, acknowledging that Miss O'Connell was appointed around that time frame or previously. But this document has that twist on it, like the other ones. And so these are the ones being sent out, apparently, to people. And then there's a different one that's actually being placed in the court file. And then there's another one that appears to be sent out to others, like maybe healthcare practitioners or things of that sort. So there's at least 2, maybe even 3 different types of what it looks like to be manipulated documents. So that's pretty much it for the documents, but that's all that we just kind of wanted to show for right now.
And I want to say to the people out there watching, if you think for a second, well, that's an awful lot of work, Mark and Terry, making 3 sets of documents and sending stuff out, and that's a pretty big deal. Yeah, it's a pretty big deal because there's billions of dollars associated with this. Of course they're going to play this scam out to the very end. And if you didn't understand it before, make no mistake, they kidnap your children and then charge you to take care of them. Even though you could say, listen, just put them back in my house and they'll be fine. Just bring them back with me and I'll be happy to take care of them. Nope. They kidnap your children, put them in foster care, and then you have to pay for it. Even though they're receiving how many thousands of dollars every month for your child, they're still coming after you as well. Because it's not about reuniting families. It's not about bringing you together with your children. It's about breaking your will, breaking your bank account, breaking everything about you so you don't fight back. That's what their plan is. That is exactly what they do.
Jim, maybe at some other point we can talk a little bit more about this, but I just want the American people to know that having not been convicted of any crime by a jury of our fellow citizens, that we have been subjected to the extortion or the theft of over $30,000 of my military pension, with the threat that if we don't, pay additional child support money, that that we could be pursued, by being put in jail or charged with a crime, even though there is no crime. And Terry and I are happily married. We've been happily married for a long time. And how is it where there's no custody issue really between us? And even in the case of people where there is a custody issue, is it really the place of the government to dictate that you should pay money? I mean, that shouldn't even be a government issue. But like in our case, it's even more egregious because they are double dipping. They're taking money from Title IV for the care of the children, and then they're coming after us, through our sources of income, to also pay them money. And then on top of it all, Jim, on top of these COVID relief things, okay, they're taking that money. We don't get that for relief or to help us in the midst of all of the problems with the COVID thing and everything else. They're taking that money straight from us in the name of child support, which is an added burden. And it's destructive. People don't even get relief. And it's not just us. We know this is happening to other people subject to us. They don't even get the relief money. It's just an outrageous travesty. I don't understand how our system of government could allow that to happen when, you say it's a relief bill and you're already funneling out all this money in other ways, and the people are benefiting off of it. I mean, the people who have our kids right now, it's a nice little retirement thing, right? I mean, hey, volunteer to become a foster parent, get paid all this money and retire happily ever after at the expense of innocent people who are just being prosecuted against on allegations with no basis in fact.
And I'm going to say this one more time for you scoundrels out there that are kidnapping children knowingly. It's time for you to come clean and admit your crimes, because the hammer is about to fall. And if I have anything to say about it, which I probably don't, but many Americans will, these people need to be executed for the crimes. We don't need to be put them in jail and have them languish away in jail for 20 years, having us pay $30,000 or $40,000 a year to keep these scumbags going. Nope. I think a bullet to the head or a rope at the end of a rope. That's what these people need, or the electric chair, whatever they choose to do. But these people need to be exterminated from the planet because they're predators. They're predators. And if you have a child out there and they're still walking around, your child's in danger. Your child's in danger. So I don't know what else to say except that these people, this is a criminal empire. You can see it. Congress, they don't care about the American people at all, not one bit. We're nothing but milk cows to them. That's all we are. And we're sheep, we're cattle, and that's how they treat us. So this is not going to stop until we stop it, folks. Anything you guys want to say in closing before we close out the show?
Nope, just thank you again, Jim, and we thank all of our friends out there who are providing us support and encouragement, and please help someone. There's a lot of hurting parents and families out there, and let's just keep it going. Let's just keep bringing the truth out. Don't be afraid.
Yeah, Jim, I would just encourage everybody, if you can just share the information with one other person a day. And, on my Twitter feed, if you go to No Longer Ignored, I have a thread that I've been adding to over time with mainstream media articles. So for the people who can't grasp that this is happening and you need to show them something from the mainstream, I've got a big long thread of mainstream media articles documenting the harm that's being done to children by this system. And I usually try to keep that up near the top of my feed. It starts with an article that says cops say foster kids are sex trafficked on the weekend or something like that. And then you just scroll through that. And you can just take one of those articles and share it with somebody in your family or a friend. And, you know, it's right out of the mainstream media, what's happening.
And 18 to 20,000 children go missing out of foster care.
Yeah, that was in the Arizona Republic article.
Not to mention the fact that I want to say in Texas a couple of years ago, over 600 children died in the foster care system, and deaths occur even in Montana and other not very populous states. People die in the foster care system. Children do. They're taken from their home where they're not dying and put in the foster care system where they do die. Not every one of them, of course, but many. Too many. One is too many. Mark and Terri Lynn, give us one more time before we close out the show. Please give out your address, your website, or anywhere else that people can reach out to you. I know you just gave your no longer ignored on Twitter, but is it Save Our Children at protonmail.com? Save Our Children at protonmail?
It's Let Our Children Go. Okay. Let Our Children Go at protonmail.com.
Okay.
And if for anybody watching this, if you go back and look at the beginning here where we showed the screenshot from the Kentucky.gov, the court's website, where they say that when they started this program out of Louisville, Kentucky, and they're considered a national model. And for any Twitter people out there, you can see Louisville police was trending today. You know, so we had Louisville Metro Police involved with our situation. And so this court system, and you mentioned children dying. There's a family that I've highlighted in our research and that I've been in touch with, whose little girl did die after she was taken out of in Louisville, Kentucky, Demaya White, and her information's out there too in our research. So yes, children are being taken and they are dying after being taken from their families. So this system is not working and we can do better. And so, yes, if anybody wants to reach us, it's Let Our Children Go at protonmail.com. And our website is letourchildrengo.wordpress.com. And we'd appreciate anybody who wants to work with us to bring awareness to this, to reach out to us. We're available. And we'd like to work with you and join together to help to expose what's happening so that we can bring awareness to stop it and create something better for the American families.
Well, we're going to have you back on next week. You guys put together something. We'll have you back on next week. We're just going to try to have you on every week until these criminals are brought to justice, as long as I can continue to keep the lights on and we can continue to do these programs. And it sounds like we have the technical issues. I think I may have got those worked out. So we'll continue to move forward because this is a national tragedy, folks. This is one of the most important projects. If you're an alternative news person out there, you know, reach out to some of these parents and get them on the show and highlight this, because this is literally, you know, if it doesn't matter how, you know, America will never be great again. America will never be great again as long as CPS kidnaps children without due process on a day-to-day basis. Those two things can't exist in the same space. That just can't. They can't. It's got to be brought to an end. It's got to be stopped. Thanks so much for looking in here on the show today. We appreciate it. We'll be in touch. God bless you both, and a Happy New Year to you.
Thank you, Jim. Bye, everybody.
Bye now. Okay, folks, there goes Mark and Terri Steman. I mean, look at their history on my YouTube channel. You can see the previous interviews that we've done with them. It's a tragic case, and we can't stop, folks, until these people are brought to justice. Because if we don't bring these people to justice, your child's next. Every child's going to fall under, eventually taken from their parents and farmed out to God knows where. If you think, oh, it can't happen to me. I mean, yes, it can happen to you. Yes, oh yes, it can happen to you. It can happen to you too. These people are demons, and they have almost no oversight. And they have almost no accounting. So it's a money laundering, child trafficking criminal cabal. Again, please send me information if you can refute that and put it up against the voluminous amounts of information and evidence that I have that proves what I just stated. Please send it along in my email, and I'll be happy to review it. Thanks so much for looking in. That's all the time we have for today. I want to thank my guests, Mark and Terri Steman, Terri Lynn Steman, for their work. Just the amazing amount of work that they've done. In light of their situation, in light of what they're going through, they still reach out and help parents. It's just amazing. It's an amazing testament to their character. So support them, support this broadcast. And if I can leave you with anything today, folks, if you have a friend or someone you know that you hear that CPS has come and taken their children, please don't fall back to this. This is why it perpetuates. Please don't have in your mind, well, what did they do? What did they do to deserve that? Believe me, folks, you don't have to do. There's no crime. They haven't been convicted of a crime. Mark and Terri Lynn have not been convicted of a crime. They haven't committed a crime, yet they've taken their children. This is what they do. They take your children with no crime. No crime. You got to be charged with a crime before you lose your life, liberty, or property, and especially if you have due process. None of that happens. None of that happens, folks. None of that happens. We so much appreciate you looking here in the broadcast. If you want to support this show, just go to northwestlibertynews.com, and right there in the middle it says Support Independent News. Just hit that button. It goes right to a donate page, and you can donate. We do appreciate that. That's how we keep going here on the show. There's no military-industrial complex, or deep state funding. If there is, the checks aren't showing up. So I appreciate your support. Thanks so much for looking in here on the show today. Thanks everyone in the chat room for keeping it civil. Till next time, James White for Critical Disclosure, saying bye now.